see it right now, but I'll run you guys through this. So I'm going to try and explain the fight and everything that I personally did and everything that my guild did, I guess, and hopefully offer some insight into what was happening and where we struggled with. So here we go. I guess I'll... Oh, I suppose I can... How do I do this? Oh, is that it? There. Is the music okay just in the background, a little bit quiet? I don't know. I don't want it to be a big deal, just like hopefully something a little bit quiet in the background. Okay, cool. So this is the pull. So we're positioned around the room. The important stuff to note with our comp is we have a ton of Warlock gateways over here, right? So we ran on the kill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Warlocks, and we have 10 Warlock gateways over here. The reason those gateways are over here is because the Warlocks are going to juke the beams. We'll get to that later. There's 3 relics in the fight: the Storm Relic, the Trident, and the like little Void Stone here. This is the DPS one, this is the tank one, and this is the healer one, respectively. So only a DPS can pick this up, only a tank can pick this up, and only a healer can pick this up. I'm just going to explain everything about the fight, and hopefully, you know, people will understand. So the relics serve 2 purposes. They both have active abilities on them, and the second purpose is that throughout the fight, periodically, the entire raid, excluding the tanks, will get star signs on them. These signs don't go on people who already have the relics on, and they're of 3 colors. They're of blue, like white, and purple, respectively. You have to go to the according relic. So I'll show you that. I'll pause when we get there. But basically, the raid is going to get 3 random star signs above their head, and if I didn't have purple, I would get purple. I'd run to the purple guy. It's that simple. If you collide with a different star sign, a different relic, or you don't do it within 15 seconds, you explode and kill everyone in a 10-yard radius. Thanks for 100 bits, Asgolf85. Very kind. So... my pull here, I have a nice little strat for. I'll slow it down and show you guys what I do. So, I open with Smite. I purge the Wicked the boss. I click up the relic. The relic has a 0.4 second cast time. And thanks to the Twitch Prime sub, you have my stapler. Cool. So the relic has a 0.4 second cast time. I want to get over here with as little DPS loss as possible. So this is how I do it. At the same time, by the way, the tank is picking up the Moon Relic because that's a tank one, and Scripe is picking up the Storm Relic as a DPS. There's a good reason why Scripe is picking that one up. The entire raid is kind of around here. So I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to cast Schism on the boss. Right? And then after the Schism, I'm going to press Solace. Now, Solace is a global. It's an instant cast. This is a cast time, and there's going to be a global. My global cooldown is 1.25 seconds. And then what I'm going to do is, immediately after pressing Solace, I'm going to take the gateway. And that means as I fly through the air, so you see I press Solace and it's currently flying towards the boss. My global is on CD, and by the time I land and cast the penance, which I've queued up, I spent about that entire thing there is about 1.4 seconds. So I lose 0.1 seconds of cast time by doing that, but that's basically a 0 DPS loss way of getting across the room. This is a really common way of taking gateways. You want to queue a global before you do it, especially without haste. Like it means that you don't lose DPS doing that. So a lot of people had questions as to why exactly I was casting Schism and then taking a gateway because they assumed it was a DPS loss, right? But the reality is because I was pressing the Solace, it wasn't a DPS loss at all. So that's why that happened. Okay. And then we're waiting for 2 things. So there's the first mechanic of the fight, the Void Crash the boss does. It's these 2 big pools. They can stack up on each other and they like target a random player. And what they do is they bounce around. So it starts as a very big one, which will basically one-shot you. Then it jumps to a medium-sized one, which will mostly one-shot you. And then a small one, which is pretty easy to soak. So the general tactic is only soak when it's a small one. That's why sometimes you'll see me stand in these void pools, because they continue bouncing until they're soaked. So you don't want to just deal with infinite small ones, right? Cabal 2.0, exactly the same as Cabal. However, because our DPS are blasting on pull, you'll see, for example, Naga Shades popped Unending Resolve here, and he's actually just going to soak it over there. And Lorgok popped Bartskin. So with big CDs on pull, these are easily survivable as a DPS. In terms of Phase 1 healing, you'll notice that I basically don't heal anyone in the raid, or very rarely heal anyone in the raid. There's a few reasons for this. The damage intervals are massive, so the time between damage events is really large. All the Warlocks can drain life, so they require no healing. So essentially, most of my healing is into the tanks in Phase 1. The next mechanic is coming up. Oh yeah, so here's the star signs, by the way, just in case anyone missed out on them. Once I'll go back a little bit here. The more interesting stuff that we do is in Phase 3. So yeah, the Unstable Resonance is being cast. So I have Void, so I don't get it. But you see those guys have the white ones, so they're going to go to the Trident. The Void are going to come to me. And our way of handling the Storm was a little bit different. So instead of having people trying to run to 3 different places of the room in Phase 1, especially when the room gets smaller, Scripe, who has the Void Stone, is basically... Is this guy going to shit talk about Pieces like he did with Limit last year? No, Pieces actually won. That's the difference. And also, Pieces didn't spend 3 months talking about how they were the best guild in the world. They just said they were going to try and they won. That simple. Pieces are more relevant than Limit have ever been in this game, period. So yeah, the way of handling the storms here is basically Scripe blinks around the room and collects the rest of the people. They don't run towards Scripe. Scripe runs around to get them. So you see, they mostly just stand still, and still, holy fuck, skill. And because he's a blink class and has a lot of mobility, and more importantly, because Scripe has a lot of overview, he's able to basically farm those people and pick them up. More relevant than Method, true? Yeah, they are more relevant than Method. So you see, even though we took a lot of raid damage there, I don't bother atoning anyone. No reason. There's the kind of the first time we've seen this mechanic as well. It's on an interesting delay timer, so you can sometimes get it before the first marks and sometimes get it after the first marks. However, it will never cast during the marks. This was hotfixed on about day 3 of the boss, so originally this would come much more often in phase 1, and you could get it during marks. So that would mean that, obviously, it spawns on players, which if you're in the middle of the room to drop off a mark, that's going to spawn in the middle of the room. If you touch this when it spawns, by the way, you heal the boss for 4%. So that's really, really, really bad. So that's why you see us consistently standing as close to the edge of the room as possible in order to not spawn those kind of in the middle or in a bad position. Initially, this was crazy. Having these spawn every sort of 12 or 15 seconds or whatever, in the first version, even during marks, was insane to deal with. That was actually really hard to deal with, and I didn't realize until they removed it how difficult that actually was. So there's another void crash. You see people are going to move out of these ones because they're too big, they only get one shot. At this point, by the way, the warlocks have all taken a gateway kind of when these spawn. I don't know if you can see it on my camera angle, you can't really. You see they're all moving, they're either running or taking a gateway to this side of the room depending, and this is when the raid starts to split up for the first time. So the warlocks basically don't need healing. The warlock is broken. It doesn't need healing. There's lasers coming from the red side of the room and the kind of moon side up here, a little bit beyond moon. So what I do here is kind of, my movement here is very specific. So people actually question this as well. You'll see we get a speed totem, okay? And I run all the way over here while I shield people across these beams as early as possible. And then I kind of delay myself over here. You see, I kind of just stop moving for a little bit until the boss casts Oblivion Tear. Oblivion Tear is that red zone on the ground, by the way. So as soon as I hear the noise for that Oblivion Tear, and like I said, it is baited on players. So I want to spawn it as far out as possible. So that's why I stand there until I hear the spawn on someone else, and then I can move back into the boss in a position where it won't be a bad place on me. This is the only time I cover the entire raid group, basically just because Lorgok gives me Innovate, and I have free mana, so why wouldn't I? And there's an obscurity at this kind of overlap after the beam, so it's a little bit awkward. Like, this one's kind of awkward, especially with the raid being spread. So I do a little bit of healing here. I cover the raid group, and I heal. You see, again, we're using the exact same tactics for the marks on an ongoing basis. The void runs to me, the moon runs to them, and you'll see Scripe is just going to go clear up the storms and stuff. So he's running, Scripe's doing his job, that's Scripe. There's 2 more big baits on the ground. We kind of have to avoid them. And the void zone, the green thing I've marked here is the red thing. So you'll see instantly after they go, I move right back to the edge to try and spawn it as close to the edge as possible. We get the MC zones, but you don't hear it on the streams. I have an audio alert for when they spawn. So even if I can't see them, I still know exactly when they've spawned. Method needs skilled players. Yeah. Green thing is marked red. What are you guys talking about? So because someone messed up these passing strats is why you got world second. None of this is a passing strat at all. This is just how you play the fight. At this point here, we always deliberately had a few people get MC'd. So those things on the ground there, by the way. Where are we? Yeah. We'll spawn in a second. They're coming in 10 seconds. So the lasers, the eyes on us off, these things here, they're those. If you stand in those, you get MC'd. It does like 100k damage to you and you get MC'd. The 100k is never going to kill you. So basically, the reason those guys get MC'd, I don't know if you see my raid frames right now, they go fucking crazy. Because those warlocks were hostile to them now, so they can dot us and we can dot them. So because the warlocks can multi-dot agony on those MC targets, we actually gain a lot of DPS by doing that. So that's why people deliberately get MC'd, and that's why all my raid frames look fucking crazy right now, because we have a ton of agonies out. So that's the reason for that. Throughout this entire phase, by the way, there's ads spawning. I haven't really mentioned these yet. These fixate on a tank, the one who gets the tank debuff, and that's like when the tank swap happens. The boss will do a cleave, the ads will then run to that tank runs out, and the other tank taunts the boss. That's what's going on there. These things have energy. When they reach 100 energy, they heal, and when they are at 0% health, they heal as well. That's basically what's happening. So we don't target them at all. We passively dot them in order to line up their health. So for every single ad in this phase, we had a very specific plan as to who exactly would dot it. So the first ad, for example, Warlock's playing Absolute Corruption, would dot the first ad and then agony it as well and keep agony on it. The second ad, they would only agony, for example, in order to pinpoint the exact health. because, like I said, when they reach 0% health, they heal to full. And what we want is when the boss hits 70% in phases, we want all of them to be completely equal health so we can AoE them down equally. So that's the reason we do that. So it was a really specific amount of damage required on each ad that required a lot of fine-tuning throughout the fight. And we got pretty good at doing that towards the end of it. We very rarely failed to that. This beam is also troublesome. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned, whenever the boss makes the room smaller, he does a bit of AoE damage, but the room being smaller actually affects things a lot. The Twitch VODs are kind of awkward, yeah. So, again, we stand towards the red side. I cross that. The reason that I always move when I'm crossing the beam is because the beam actually gets refreshed if you stand still. It can get refreshed. It's a little bit. It depends. If I stand still during that, it will go like 5 seconds initial application, go to 4, and then reapply again. So I'll take the initial damage and an extra second long. So that's why I always like at least move a little bit during the beams. That's why I do that. That's in phase 3 especially, that reduces incoming damage by a fair bit. And because this beam's coming from here, you're going to see me move up here to try and avoid it. The healing on this one is kind of awkward, because Warlocks now struggle a little bit to juke them. So some Warlocks take 1 stacks here, and I try and reposition myself across the room. The way I played there was extremely risky, by the way. I should not have been there. I should have goblin jumped that much earlier to be across earlier. I could have risked a bait in the middle of the room, if I'm being honest with you. Again, even though myself and Liz Cannon are pretty low here, you're going to see me not healing either of us, because I know that the only damage that's coming is the Oblivion in a couple of seconds, and that's not going to kill out our current health, so it's literally impossible for us to die, so healing would be a complete waste of mana. So that's why I don't heal there at all. We do the same thing where people move to the Trident, the Void. The room being smaller makes it kind of easier and more difficult in like a weird way. So obviously there's much less running to do, and it's somewhat easier to see where people are, but collisions are much easier in a smaller space, and Scripe just goes and picks up the last few people. Scripe really absolutely outplayed this fight. At this point, the boss is pretty close to phase, and the first intermission is at 70% HP. So what we want to do is we want to get all of these AoE down by the DPS active ability, which currently Scripe is holding. So what we do now, on top of that, sorry, I should have mentioned, I didn't mention the active abilities at all. The DPS active ability, the Storm of Lightning thing that Scripe is holding, when he presses it, it will do AoE damage on the entire raid, and anyone below 25% it will insta-kill, including mobs except the boss. You get that? Anyone below 25%, including hostile monsters except the boss. Great, perfect. Because we did try and use it on the boss and it did not work. We really hoped it would work on the boss. The tank ability is just a big bubble that reduces damage taken by 70% and has a static health pool, so when it absorbs a certain amount of damage, it will disappear. And the healer ability is essentially just, you are no longer able to be healed, but neither are hostile mobs, which means obviously you can clean up the pools, because the pools that heal for 4% don't work anymore, and the feed, if I pressed it now, for example, right now, that feed the Guardian is casting would not heal him. I don't use it now. What we do is we use the tank bubble to reduce incoming damage by a lot. You'll see it up here in a second. We try and DPS these down a little bit. There's the tank bubble. And then we use the DPS active ability, the Lightning, which does damage on our entire raid and damage on them. And then when they drop below 25%, we'll insta-kill them without them having the ability to heal. So that's what we do there. Great. I drop my own barrier there, and we just do a little bit of healing. There's not much healing to be done, honestly. The damage of this is fairly low. You see there's 5 seconds left on the spawn. We get into phase 2 now, and this is the first time I use the active ability as a healer. Whenever you use the ability, by the way, whenever it is finished being used, that's when it drops. So, like, when the tank bubble expires, it drops in its location. When Scripe's thing ends, the thing will drop. When mine ends, my thing will drop. That's what's happening there. So I do a little bit of healing here, hit the boss, and I changed my tactic on the last 2 or 3 pulls here. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. This was definitely a big error from me, if I'm being honest with myself. I got pretty committed to doing the Oblivion thing early on, because I thought it would be too awkward to try and arrange like who soaks what with the rest of the raid group during what seemed like a hectic phase. And the Oblivion thing originally didn't seem so hard. And I don't want to say I had many fails to the Oblivion thing, but I definitely had a couple more than I definitely had too many, right? Any amount is too many. So what I do here is I pop my thing, and I essentially, this weak aura here is insane, by the way. Nogo made this weak aura. The Void Shield, when you pop it, makes your entire raid immune to healing. It puts a static shield on yourself that can soak a certain amount of damage. This amount is listed on this weak aura here. You see I can currently take 243k more damage. I list this, the 3.1 number below. It just so happens that soaking a void pool and standing in obscurity deal the exact same amount of damage, which is awfully convenient. I think that's how they intended you to handle the mechanic. So what I originally did is I walked in the void pool at the edge, the Oblivion. I ticked that down to 0.1, and then I could soak precisely one more void pool before the relic dropped and the boss became okay again. What I changed to was instead I changed to just standing in this thing here deliberately to deplete my shield. It does a little bit more than 3.1 times my health, so I shielded myself as well to be safe, and that's when that drops. You'll see that, like, obviously when the shield was up, the rest of the group were also clearing these things. I wait and they clear this as well, and we have now a completely clear room with a Void Stone in a relatively good position. So that's exactly why we did that. Oh, because that fears you, my healer friends dispelled me. Phase 2 healing is honestly extremely easy. People kept on saying, why aren't you 4 healing? There was really no need to 4 heal. I don't know, the only issue here was tank healing, and you'll see that I basically only atone the tanks the entire phase. You can spend this entire phase completely mana neutral, if not gain a little mana. Because the stones are all on the ground now, obviously that means people have to be running to all 3 stones, so collisions are a little bit easier to have in this phase than they were in the first phase, because I guess not cleaning up as much. The room doesn't get smaller anymore, and the only real change is that these ads spawn, the little mindbender things, I don't know what to call them, those things. If they are killed, they spawn even smaller mindbenders that when they die, do massive AoE damage to the entire raid. So what we try and do right there, you'll see this happened, right, okay. Potter picked up the Storm Relic, the DPS one. These things all spawn. We DPS these all down to pretty much sub 25%. Potter goes to the edge of the room, you can't really see him here. He pops the active, he stands in the obscurity, which you can see the debuff on him right there, for a tick or two. Runs back in, waits until everything is dead, and then has the Storm kill them. So now the Storm Relic is inside the room just there, and everything is dead. By doing this, we avoid having the tank ads stack up, and we avoid having to deal with the small ads that do massive AoE damage. Potter's deaths in this fight were all deliberate, in case you weren't aware. People kept on being like, lol, Potter dead again. Everything was actually deliberate, even though that's extraordinarily obvious. At least I feel like it's extraordinarily obvious. Why do you Smite so much? Smite is an extraordinarily mana efficient spell. On a phase like this where the incoming damage is extremely low and you don't really need to be casting much else, you can just Smite, Schism, and Solace. You'll see sometimes I hold off casting Penance because Penance is too much HP mana, like healing per mana. So you see, my goal this phase is basically just to keep the tanks atoned. My talent choice in this fight was a little bit interesting. I actually ended up playing Lenience Reward, even though, or just it's called Lenience now, I guess. Used to be called Lenience Reward instead of Evangelism, even though Evangelism is like considered the best. Even though Evangelism is considered like the best raiding talent, on this fight we were pretty much entirely dealing with tank damage, and by keeping up the tanks, wait, there's a quest here? Wait, what is this? Oh, cool. I guess I'll do that later. And I'll go back to my board. Where are we? There we are. So yeah, it's just small amounts of tank. You'll see I don't cast Penance here. I shouldn't cast Penance here, assuming I have a brain. Yeah, because it's just too much mana for what it does. So I get the Storm and I go to the Storm. It's at the edge of the room here. Positioning is actually really important in this phase, but very subtle. So when this Void Zone ends, like this bait that's incoming, if someone is standing on a relic, that means that you will have to soak the Void Zone and heal the boss 4% to get the relic. So you'll see that no one is standing, or no one should be standing on that relic when this bait comes. However, you can't stand completely at the edge of the room because of the unknowable terror which comes soon, which is the big fear thing. Because if I'm standing too close to the edge, like if I was standing back there, I would not have made it out of here, and we sometimes had deaths to that, which sucked. When there are ads up, I do actually penance the boss in order to spread Purge the Wicked, because I think that is worth it, and my mana wasn't that tight. You see I have 96% mana right now, which is completely fine. We do the exact same thing with this wave of ads again. This time it's Overrun that picks it up, I believe. So we just get them all low, he runs out, he kills himself in the Oblivion, and congratulations, that's those waves dead. We shouldn't really deal with another ad wave until the second intermission, so at this point it's pretty much just play clean and avoid collisions. We got a lot better the past like 200 pulls, I'd say, at avoiding collisions. The first few hundred were extremely messy, but I'd say the past 100 at least, we did get substantially better at avoiding collisions just as a group. We had rules, like kind of traffic rules for how to approach this. So the rules were Moon is Prio, then Void, then Storm. That was like the traffic rules, basically. So if there was a kind of cross section, the Moon should always go first, and Moon should be like aggressive, right? Moon should be like aggressive. Moon should be alpha, you know, like if you get Moon, fucking go, dude. You're alpha. If anyone runs into you, it's their fault, not yours. So that's kind of how we did that, right? At least theoretically. In actuality, what ended up happening a little bit was people would kind of like AD trying to figure it out. And I tended to play very passively here because I tended to know how far I could get and if I could make it. So I would always rather play passively and let other people A lot of people do that shit. So we're in the second intermission now, and it's exactly the same as the first, basically. We use the storm to clear up those remaining few ads from the phase. I mean, we kind of skipped a bit there, but you see, while this is going on, those ads are being DPS lower. We pop a tank bubble again, use the storm to clear up the remaining few ads, which is kind of going on when I'm getting to, I believe Naga has it now? Yeah, Naga has it. Yeah, that's great. So I get in the tank bubble. I drop my own bubble in a second, or at least I should. There we go. And kind of just do a little bit of healing to the raid. Again, I changed my tactic for how to... Says passively to avoid saying beta. True. I changed my tactic again, like, towards the end here, which was actually based on a fuck-up we had, where... Well, I say a fuck-up. A slight error we had where Ken took it. Well, someone baited on avoid, and then Ken took it. And then he played it really well this phase. So I used to dip into the Oblivion, take 5 stacks again, and then soak the second one that spawned. Instead, I just opted to soak 5 straight up. There was no reason for me not to do this, basically. And I just kind of play a fun little game here where I bounce around a little bit and soak 5. So that's that one. And I soak one more. I deliberately took that a little bit late because I knew the tank cleave was coming. And then I wanted to soak this one orange. The group soaked the rest. And this reduced incoming raid damage and grant that does a little bit of raid DPS. That's what we did there. This was, again... I'd say my play with Void was definitely substandard here. I should have said both of those. I should have said both of those myself earlier. I should have just gone for it. Thing is, once you have something that's working, you rarely want to change it because you've invested time into figuring that out and to get it to work. So sometimes changing will feel like a step backwards, even if in the long term it would be beneficial. So that's what that is. Okay. So we're in phase 3 now, which is honestly not that hard. Why not priest buff the shamans? Yeah, I did. Like, genuinely, like, phase 3... No, I know it sounds stupid, but phase 3 is genuinely not that insane. Seriously, like, it's horrible. Can you invite someone from Pieces to go through tactics? Feels like World Second Pop isn't good enough. True. So... Stuff in this phase. That right there. Gift is off Lunacy. What this does is it MCs all players for 4 seconds, basically. So everyone is hostile to me at this point. So I am unable to heal when that's going on. You can see that that's happening by a big old weak aura down here. I'll rewind a second. Where are we? It's coming in a sec. Okay, so yeah. I dropped the Void Relic. The Unstable Resonance goes out. We're going to do the Resonance. During the Resonance, we get the Mind Controls. And I have a weak aura down here, which is huge, which shows exactly how many seconds remaining on it. There we go. 3, 2, 1, 0. Because they're hostile targets, thanks for the sub, Marrow, I appreciate it. Because they're hostile targets, you actually can't precast on them, which sucks a little bit. Why don't you track Weakened Soul and Voodoo? There is never really a raid situation where doing that is the optimal choice. Well, like, reshielding the same person is the optimal choice. This fight was one of the only ones, and even then I'm just spamming them anyway, so... Oh, that's a lot of... Okay, thanks for, like, 4 Twitch Prime subs. I don't know, man. Fuck it, whatever. That's kind. Anyway, the name of the game in this phase is basically just to keep the tanks alive. That's it. You still get the beams. Oh, yeah. There's also these things here, which are insatiable torments. These players become completely immune to healing, right? And the way that you heal them is by standing in the circle around them. Did you guys manage to get it down? Yeah, we did. I crossed this one early and I popped my Shadow Fiend because I know I'm going to get a second Shadow Fiend. The amount of raid healing here is actually very low. Most of our Warlocks juke the beam with their portals, so you see there's a big stack of portals there. They play around yellow, and when the beams come, they actually all teleport over at the same time. This looks pretty cool. If you see right here, it's going to come up. So all the Warlocks are here. There we go. The beam's coming for them, and off they go. They're all across there. So that's how they handle that, and that's why we have a lot less. That's why we bought so many Warlocks, and that's why we didn't really, like... And that was our plan with that phase. That's what the Warlocks were doing. So this reduces the healing requirement a lot. You still get the... Oh yeah, when the MC's coming out, you see I have a weak aura there that says Shield Torments. If a Torment's low, I always try and shield them there. But like I said, my focus this phase was more than anything just on the tags. I just want to keep the tags good. Okay, the baits still happen this phase as well, like the healing zones, which means that you'll see sometimes I move a lot for seemingly no reason, right? But it's pretty much always just because the baits are super important, and a single one in the middle of the room can completely fuck us up. Yeah, there's a tank swap. Mirror's out of range. I should have defensive penance there, I guess. Oh no, I raptured, so he was safe. I raptured, that's fine. It was a big shield. Tank almost dies, you're at 90% mana. No, I understand. I know what you're saying, but at that point I believe he's out of range, and the baits are almost more important. You never use PS? Okay. You never use PS. Wait for it. PS used on Just Wait. What the fuck are you saying I never use PS? Do you just not know how to track it on my UI? That's fine. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's not a big deal. So, important things happening now. Scripe has the Storm, right? The ads are all low. He's going to do the same thing we did in Phase 1 here and deliberately pop the Storm and kill himself early in order to clear that wave of ads. In Phase 3, we want to do this twice. We only need to do it twice. Guess Mirror's called for it if Just Wait got it. Okay, Scott, that was actually funny. That part happens later. So, we cleared the first wave of ads, and that means that we're on it. This now is a really good try. A lot of the deaths in Phase 3 were to not killing an ad successfully, and then kind of having the tank damage ramp up. Because if those ads don't die, they continue to ramp up in damage, right? So it's very important that we kill them at that exact point. What I do here is I do shield the Insatiables occasionally. The Atonement does no healing to them, sure. Yeah, I think that Radiance was correct. It's hard to know. You see, I know sometimes I Atonement heal when the tanks are low, but spamming Shadow Men into them versus casting a Penance that spreads Purge the Wicked is like sometimes... I should have... Yeah. I don't know. Watching your own gameplay back as a healer is always so frustrating. You see so many little mistakes and stuff. Especially when the tanks are so spiky, it's difficult. But yeah, so because I'm playing Lenience as well, the Atonement does reduce damage taken by 3% on those players. So shielding them is actually pretty valuable if they're low. Most of the time you don't need to shield them. Like, they're kind of safe with just the Warlock group or the group they're with. But shielding them is really important. A big part of our Phase 3 attempts were basically just if healers got the Insatiable Torment. If a healer got an Insatiable Torment, it suddenly felt like an entirely different fight in terms of difficulty. Like, it became much, much harder to play. Just because... as a healer, your positioning is already, like, you're moving a lot already, and the healing requirement is fairly high. You kind of just want to, like, focus on other shit. So to have to deal with playing the Insatiables was pretty frustrating. So on this pull, to not have any Insatiables on healers by 10% was really, really good. I swapped to the Guardians here because we're going to try and do the second wave of Guardian clear at some point. And I cast a Radiance as well because I know that Scripe is going to cast the AoE. I deliberately don't shield him because I know he's going to try and die with one tick in a second, which he did perfectly. We pop the tank bubble here, and I deliberately stand in it. I opt not to take 2 stats because I can see that the bubble is safely going to be depleted with the damage we have outgoing in the raid. So I don't want to take a second stack deliberately just to deplete the bubble like 1 second faster when I know it's not going to explode. We did have a death to an explosion, so I was very wary of that, but I didn't want that to happen again. At this point of the fight, I know the only thing that matters... I'm fairly certain we're going to kill a boss right now at 8% because it's very hard for stuff to go wrong as long as the tanks don't die. So you'll see I start focusing a fair bit more on tank healing at this stage. And obviously, like, doing DPS to the boss is still important as well. These baits here are all exceptionally good, by the way. Like, most of Phase 3 strat is just really good baits. Having more rings in the middle would have completely fucked this attempt for us. I honestly think that. Leech debuffs Pepper Hands. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any on healers, and that kind of made the kill here. Potter's very low, so I cast a Void Shield on him, but I'm still trying to move, and ultimately, like, at this point, I could have saved Potter, right? I could have saved Potter, and I tried my best to save him, okay? I'll show you. Let me go back. No, I'll show you what happens here. Why can't I... why the VOD repeat? Dude, Twitch VODs are so fucked, man. Okay, I can't stop the VOD, sorry. 1 second. Let me try and figure this out. Okay, great. That's fucking trash. Why? It literally... okay, I don't know. Anyway, I cast a Void. It's the chat on the VOD. It causes it to lag. Yeah, sorry. Tank dies. The last 3% is the most interesting 3%. That's the kind of sad thing, honestly. Wait, someone link me this clip. You get what you ask for. Wait, what is this? Hold up. You get what is... you get what you ask for. Whole different level. And honestly, to everyone, maybe we are operating on a whole different level. And honestly, I truly believe we are, by the way. I truly believe Method is on a whole other level right now. And There's nothing I'd love more than to watch this clip in 3 days after we're put in the fucking dirt. That would make me happy. That would legit make me happy.
No, it wouldn't.
If you guys link me this clip when we lose, if we lose, right? I'd enjoy it. I'd honestly enjoy it. I'd be like, yeah, damn right. Fucking, I was wrong.
I was very fucking wrong. Shut the fuck up, dude. I was very wrong.
I'm kidding. I would tilt off the face.
Yeah, damn right. You fucking tilted. Yeah, I fucking okay. All right, you. Yeah. You will fucking tilt. See, I know myself. I baited myself, dude. I wanted to kill that little prick right there. Okay. The self-debate is pretty rare. That was fun. Okay, the VOD's working again. I can show you guys. Wonderful. Let me just rewind a second or two here. That was pretty painful. Okay, here we go. So, boss is at... wait, let me mute that and do this. Great. Boss is at 3%. Tanks are alive. I have Storm, so I still want to clear my Storm here. The boss is not going to die before my debuff expires in 10 seconds, so I still want to, like, clear my Storm. What do you mean what they did? All right. No insane spam, dude. Scuff PS. Wait. The one upcoming? Yeah. I failed this PS here. So I basically PS the wrong target, essentially. I PS Mirrors even though Just Wait was the one who was tanking the ads. That was a mistake. And that mistake essentially... like, I don't know, like, it's so hard. Okay, Just Wait's fine, he's fine. I'm smiting with Schism up, like, I'm smiting with Schism up, which is actually a lot of healing, yeah? I outrange him because I want to do the beams and stuff. I go back in, I shield myself, and then I try and, I don't know, man, I don't know, like... I knew I'd be fine. I knew I'd be fine with just the atonements I had, so that wasn't a problem. Like, I don't... I guess I could have crossed a second earlier. I needed to shield myself. I had no Hellstone. I had nothing. If I hadn't shielded myself, I would have died. Like, the one shield kept me alive just fine, but... I guess I should have... Yeah... If I had PS there, I'd be fine. I know. It wasn't me... The play was defensive penanting while moving. Yeah, the issue here is, like, I'm kind of... I don't know. Yeah, I readjust with penance there. I guess I should have saved the penance for defensive. Although, I'm gonna be honest, penancing into Schism, which also, like, normally would spread the Purge, because I don't even think it was that bad play. Yeah, I did, like I said, I PS'd the wrong target. It's my own fault. It was called wrong, but it was my own fault. Like, there's, I can see the fucking tank by debuff. I should have known, like, who was, I should know the timings of the fight as well at this point, like, Anyway. Just Wait dies at 0.9%. This is a much bigger deal than it seems to be, because now everything is aggroed on, like, either mirrors or random targets, okay? As soon as the ads are in range of the boss... Wasted global on feather? Yeah, maybe. As soon as the ads are on top of the boss, it takes 99% reduced damage. So, that 1 million health suddenly becomes 100 million health. Do you see why that's a very bad thing? that becomes a very bad thing. Thank fuck. Lorgok taunts, goes bear form, drags the boss away. Mirrors here, tanks the ads, taunts them back, whatever the fuck, I don't know. Boss is literally 100k, 200k, and we luckily kill it. Dude. I wasn't even, like, I wasn't even fucking happy, man. I don't know, I was so sad. Like, I've never felt like that killing a boss before, ever. That sucked so hard. I don't know. I've watched the tank deaths on every single low wipe we've had back, and there's always something you can do. There's always something you can do. That's the thing. I feel like if almost anyone watches the replay of a low wipe back, There's always, you know, like, yeah, I could have delayed that if I wouldn't have died there. You know, I could have had health pot. I should have DPS'd the ad more. I could have done, like, and it's just, I don't know, it's fucking heartbreaking. The feather. Thing is, at the point where I press feather... No, you're right. I guess I shouldn't have feathered. I guess I should have just walked forward. Pre-shielded myself, then I would have had a spare global to shield Just Wait. Although, honestly, the thing is, right, I'm not sure a shield on Just Wait would have done much there. Like, maybe, I don't think it would have saved him necessarily. At that stage, it's more about externals than anything else. We just didn't have anything, I don't know. That sucked, but, is Method ever going to do Uu'Nat? I hope so. All other healers were Yeah. I know. PS in the wrong target is exactly the issue. Yeah, it's my own fault. Like I said, I should have paid attention to the debuff. It was my fault. So phase 3 is pretty much just about clearing the 2 waves of ads, good baits, and not hard inting. That's it. That's it. As long as you don't get tank deaths, which is not the tank's fault. That's more like DPS's fault for not DPS on the right ads, or healer's fault for not healing them enough. As long as you don't get tank deaths, it's fine. So how many pulls did it take? Our pull count in the end was 751.